I'm Brendan Coffey. In my career, I've covered some of the world's most influential billionaires and powerful companies at publications like the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, and the Associated Press. Now I cover finance for Sportico at the intersection of sports and business. Tune into our new video series, Coffey Talk, where I will be interviewing the most powerful in sports finance, including bankers, private equity, executives, C-suite leaders, and more. Join us Tuesdays for an in-depth look at the money behind your favorite sports. Today, we're talking NFL, and joining me are Mark Affolter and Jim Miller. Both are portfolio managers, partners, and co-heads of U.S. Direct Lending for Ares. So, Mark, Jim, you're also both co-leads of the sports media and entertainment business at Ares, and it's been a big week for you, big week in sports in our corner of the world, that the NFL is allowing private equity to possibly buy minority ownership of franchises. Let me just open up, sort of generally, why is this such a big deal that the NFL is letting private equity in?
I'm happy to start, Jim, and we can certainly go back and forth. Brendan, thanks for including us. We're extremely, I'd say, excited, certainly, about the opportunity to potentially invest in the NFL. We certainly believe that these are iconic assets, an incredible economic model, one that we've, I think, over time certainly grown in terms of our appreciation for. I do think it's a big deal. I think it's reflected in certainly the methodical, constructive, very thoughtful nature that the NFL took in developing a program, developing a framework for a program in terms of vetting those partners that they would include into this program. We're excited to be potentially on that short list. And I do think it's a big deal. I think that it's somewhat logical, as we've seen the evolution of valuations within the NFL and for NFL entities. I think it's logical that the NFL would go there. And so, yes, I think it's a big deal. And, as I said before, we're extremely excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, excellent. Jim, what are your thoughts?
I'll echo what Mark said. First, we're thrilled. And, we're grateful for their support in adding us to this program. The NFL has been working on this, as other leagues, really, for many years, though. So this is something they've been working on methodically. I may even go back 4 or 5 years. And over the last year or so, maybe there's been a step function increase in how they've wanted to organize around it, but it's been a dialogue for a real long period of time. They've been really careful. And they've created something similar to other leagues, where they've created something that was customized that fits well for them, but also really wanted to make sure it fit well for the investors. So they put a lot of thought into striking a balance that made sense for both sides. And they took their time to get there, but we're thrilled that it finally came to a head this week.
Yeah, interesting. Let me give background for folks who might be watching who don't know. So the NFL's last of the major pro leagues to allow institutional investors potentially to invest, joining the other major sports leagues in North America, at least. The NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS, etc. Which over the past 4 or 5 years have started letting private equity and other institutional investors buy into teams. You mentioned, Jim, they've been kind of considering this for a few years, which is kind of a lengthier timeline than my impression. I would love to get a little bit of, to the extent you can, a little bit more insight into the process and sort of how you guys and the NFL came together on this.
Yeah, look, I think my reference is more about something that starts as a conversation at the league office over the course of time as they've watched other leagues participate in similar ways, and then, but really over in the last year or so, organized a group and a committee to reach out to folks like Ares and spend time to craft a program. So I think it went from a lot of discussion and framework, going back a few years, to something much more specific and deliberate in the last 6 to 12 months. And obviously the NFL is a collection of owners, and so they want to collect feedback from all the owners, and as they work towards getting to a place that there can be universal support, and that takes time. So, and it's not an insignificant change. So there was a lot of thought and time and effort that went into getting it to a place where they could get to universal support at the league level. So that process really does take a lot of effort, a lot of iteration, a lot of back and forth, a lot of educating for owners to learn what are the puts and takes, what does it mean for them, and I think we were helpful in that. I think we were a part of that, which was something we were happy to do, given we have extensive experience doing this, right? So our history investing in sports dates back several years. We've got a long history of 15 years investing in sports and media, and a lot of experience over the last handful of years in a variety of different leagues. And so I think, I hope we brought value to the conversation just by sharing our thoughts around what's worked well and maybe what things could be improved as part of the program. So it was quite collaborative.
Interesting. Well, not to talk about other companies in the group too much, but one of the interesting things about the group of PE firms that's been led, and is a couple of them, some of your large peers, don't have a great deal of experience in sports, and that's not necessarily a knock against them, just a reflection of their portfolios now. But Aries, you guys, you've been involved in sports for a while, mostly on the financing side, the debt side. So, in your experience in sports, what do you think you bring to the table with the NFL?
Brendan, I think it is important, actually. I think one of the differentiators that I was able to glean throughout this process is actually having dedication to the sports investing strategy was something that was important, was something that was valued. Look, I think you point out correctly so that we do have certainly a credit DNA, but we also certainly have the ability and pride ourselves on flexibility of our capital, the ability to go up and down the balance sheet with a high degree of scale. And yes, I think to a certain extent that might be unique relative to some of our peers that have made it through to to the next round, if you will. But it is something that we certainly pride ourselves on. And I think the ability to, in this particular case, do something that is more down balance sheet, more equity that is limited in terms of its governance rights in an area that we think has high growth potential associated with it, was something that we found to be really attractive and really appealing. But, I'm glad that you point out the fact that we do have a dedicated strategy and a dedicated team and have been doing this for a very long time.
Yeah, maybe I'll add to what Mark said a little with, we think we bring with that dedicated team, we hope we bring some key relationships, a network, a knowledge base that I hope will provide whoever the counterparty is, whether it's the NFL or other teams or just other companies in our portfolio, the right support, guidance when they need it. And we tend to have a lighter touch. It's really what people look for when they work with Aries. It's a hopefully a collaborative one. It's not heavy-handed, but it's there for the taking as needed. And I think that fit really well for what the NFL was trying to do here. We're comfortable being in that position and don't have to have more. That experience that's up and down the balance sheet, people don't know. Very common theme. People don't know exactly what their needs are. Certainly, when you start a conversation about whatever it is that you're looking to accomplish, you think you have an idea, but it always almost always migrates into something else, and those relationships evolve over time. So having the experience to do things up and down the balance sheet for an organization, whether down the road they do need stadium development, real estate development, things like that, having a partner and a source of capital and a knowledge center is, I think, something people will often take advantage of. So we're happy to bring that to the NFL as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, and debt financing, which is my impression of a lot of what Ares has done, in the past, at least to my knowledge, with teams in other leagues and sports related businesses. How and not to get too far into the weeds here, but how different is being able to provide debt financing, a loan, say, to build a stadium to a franchise, and being a part owner of a franchise? What's the sort of practical, and what are some of the differences in there?
Well, maybe I'll start, Mark, but there's certainly a range of expertise that you would need across the spectrum, right? And that is something we provide as a firm. So you have to remember, Ares is a large alts manager that has experience up and down the balance sheet, as we mentioned, everything from regular way, real estate, credit, alt credit, private equity, and we're U.S., Europe, Asia, global business. So the expertise is in-house and across the spectrum. And there are subtle differences and sometimes more meaningful differences depending on where you are in the capital structure. So having that range of capabilities is important. And we, I think, have a pretty good sense for how to participate in all of those facets and are happy to do so. So there may be a credit bent because just the scale of our business and the large credit platform we have, but it is really a full spectrum at the firm.
Yeah, great. So, it's super interesting to me as someone who's covered Wall Street for my career, basically. I won't say how many years, but it's getting up there. That private equity and sports never kind of mutually ignored each other for a very long time, and it really wasn't until I think it was 2006 that 3 American firms bought the French soccer team Paris Saint-Germain, and kind of opened the sports world to private equity ownership. And I know in Europe the situation is different in that there's not as many restrictions on institutional funds buying teams outright. Right, we saw that with Chelsea last year or the year before. So, given that this relationship between PE and sports is relatively young, I would love to get your thoughts on as guys on the institutional side, what does PE see in sports? Why is it become such an attractive target now? Maybe Mark, if you want to.
Yeah, happy to start. I think that there's a number of things. We think it's a really attractive sector to invest in. We have been investing in it for a while now through a dedicated strategy and a dedicated team. Some of the things that we really like, probably the lack of correlation from a macroeconomic standpoint, from a capital market standpoint. We've certainly seen that play out just in terms of the level of activity that we've seen across the asset class, across the sectors, diversified certainly by way of league and geography, but consistent growth in terms of the opportunity set that we've seen. We've seen really good growth from a commercial revenue standpoint. Again, as I mentioned previously, lack of correlation. Oftentimes the teams or the leagues that we're investing in, they benefit from long-tailed media rights and long-tailed sponsorship revenue, almost creating infrastructure like cash flow and revenue streams. Certainly that's played out in terms of the growth that we've seen in terms of commercial revenue. I think it's also driving valuation growth across the various leagues, across the various sports. And it's not just confined for us to teams and leagues of a professional nature. We're also investing in other entities in the value chain, service providers into the sports ecosystem or products providers into the sports ecosystem. Youth and amateur sports, has been an area that we've identified a while ago, and have seen, incredible growth around consistent non-discretionary consumer spend around youth sports and team sports at an amateur level. All those things we find to be really attractive. It creates, wide addressable market space, white space opportunity for us. And certainly the NFL is now a big component of that for us as we look forward.
But there is one question I got to ask on behalf of all the fans, because I've gotten a lot of queries from radio stations and TV stations, sort of generally wondering what this means for the average fan. I know one big question is, am I going to be able to buy into my hometown Jets anytime soon because of this?
Well, I'm not sure people will be all that excited to hear the response. I'm not sure it's going to change all that much for folks. I think that was part of the point of all the effort the league went through to construct the rules they did.
I'll just add, as a Green Bay Packer fan, I already have, as a Green Bay Packer fan, I already have that capability, Brendan.
Lucky you.
Exactly.
Well, so maybe to close, I know both from a sports business framework that the NFL was kind of the last brass ring, so to speak, to be able to attain for PE access. And I would just love to get your thoughts, whether it's professionally or personally, on getting to the point where you can potentially make deals and with the NFL and own parts of teams through your fund.
Means I have to give up my ties to my loyalty to my hometown team, the Giants, maybe. And by the way, that's okay with me. At some point, you realize it's part of the gig. But one of the most difficult things, you see it with a lot of owners, right? You can grow up in an area and they move or they fly to a place where a team is available, right? So it's about the investment at the end of the day, and it's about the market opportunity. If it happens to be in New York, that's great, but it's part of life. It's not likely that's the case. The odds are against you, and there's not a lot of opportunity to come up.
Yeah, maybe I'll add to that. Personally, as a huge fan of the NFL, as a huge fan of American football, there's a lot of pride to be a part of this. I think when I look at it professionally, having built a business in sports media and entertainment, this being, Brendan, a little bit to your point, I won't use the term last frontier, but, kind of is, at least in terms of investing in U.S. sports leagues. This is iconic. These have incredible growth associated with them, NFL franchises. And, we can sit there and look at that and feel that their economic model is so unique, and it is. But it is also just tremendous scarcity value. So I take a lot of pride in it, both personally and professionally. It's great to be at this point, and look forward to the opportunity to invest in some of these teams going forward.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, Jim, Mark, thank you for taking the time. I'm sure your schedule has gotten even busier with the NFL news. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right. Thanks.